What are you guys doing?
Don't you know? We're doing barefoot running.
What? That's crazy. I've never heard of that before.
Oh, you're kidding. Oh, really? Have you not ever heard about it?
No, I really haven't heard of it before.
Oh, then tell us what you want to know and we will explain to those questions. Come on, guys.
뭘 하는구나.
Well, this is all new to me. I've never heard of barefoot running before. I have so many questions like, doesn't it hurt? But before that, I do have some opinions about this topic. First, barefoot running is natural and it is better for the body and it actually prevents injury from wearing shoes. However, I do think that on the other hand, running with shoes actually prevents hazardous injuries on hard surfaces, and it provides protection and support and motion control. I do have a major hypothesis on this topic, and it is that, well, first, that the human body was adapted to running barefoot. However, how one runs probably is more important than what is on one's feet. But what is on one's feet, however, affects how one runs. Well, you guys asked me what I was curious about, and so first things first. These are the lists that I'm curious about barefoot running. First, why does evolution matter, and what exactly is foot strike? And I don't have a clue what stride rate and length is, and anatomical adaptations, and what is performance when barefoot running? And I will move on to my first question. Why does evolution matter? Can anyone tell me?
Oh, I can answer to the question. Sports medicine generally has not paid much attention to evolutionary biology, but this is a mistake. From an evolutionary medical perspective, three novel consequences wearing shoes may be relevant to injury. First of all, shoes limit proprioception. The concept of proprioception is that the unique sense of oneself. It mainly exists on muscles, tendon, and joints, and bones. Briefly speaking, it is the ability that can detect or notice the particular position of one's body. For example, we can smash mosquito when we got bitten by it without seeing the position of our body. So plantar proprioception activates reflexes and helps the central nervous system make decisions that help increase stability and avoid injury. In turn, these feedbacks which are curtailed in a shoe may help avoid some traumatic and repetitive injuries. Second, modern shoes with elevated heels, steep soles, cushioning, and arch support may either facilitate or encourage a different running form than appears to be common among habitual barefoot runners. In other words, some runners today may be getting injured because the novel way they run imposes forces on the body for which it is adapted poorly. Finally, there is a reason to hypothesize that shoes can contribute to weak and inflexible feet, especially during childhood when the foot is growing. The musculoskeletal system is highly responsive to loading, most strongly during ontogeny, and the normal unshed mechanical environment in which human feet developed during most of human evolution surely was different from the more cushioned, supportive environment that is common today among short people. So, anything else, questions?
Actually, yes. What do we already know about barefoot running?
Until recently, most studies of barefoot running were conducted by asking habitually shod runners to take their shoes off in a laboratory to consider how these aspects of barefoot running form are relevant to the evolutionary medical hypothesis of injury. It is useful to review each of them in more detail to ask how they affect a runner's kinetics and performances. Did you get it?
Oh, so this barefoot running thing is really based on biology.
Yes.
So, is there anything you can tell me about foot strike?
Okay, I'll explain foot strike. Foot strike has three types: RFS, MFS, and FFS. RFS is rear foot strike, it's heel land before ball of the foot. MFS is middle foot strike, is simultaneously landing of the heel and ball of the foot. FFS is the forefoot strike, is ball of the foot lands before the heel. Let's see the difference between barefoot and shoes. Modern running shoes has an elastic heel. Barefoot runner with the rear foot strike landing, the force impact sends to head very fast in 10 milliseconds. It makes it painful the runner, but the runner wear the shoes, the impact speed is 6 times slower. It makes comfortable for the runner. It is why barefoot runner prefer the forefoot strike landing. More detail about the force. See the figures. A is RFS landing, B is FFS landing with short stride, and C is FFS landing with a long stride. Below figure represents the vertical ground reaction force as F and each momentum arm as R. RFS generates an impact with ground high frequency vibrations. But the FFS doesn't generate any vibrations of impact. Because the FFS is plantar flexed and controls the dorsiflexion during the period of impact. So FFS landing is more light and gentle than RFS landing. This chart shows the mean rate of landing in body mass per second. RFS runners are open circles and FFS runners are filled circles. Rear foot strikes are more body weight impact than forefoot strikes, but some points have similar body weight in RFS and FFS. This is why some barefoot runners sometimes RFS with no apparent discomfort. This is what foot strike is. Do you understand?
Okay, so that was a lot of information, but I think I can keep up. I'll keep in mind the RFS, MFS, and FFS. So, is there anyone who can tell me about stride rate and length?
Yeah, I can answer that. Where stride rates vary enormously among the runners for many reasons. These studies clearly have quantified difference in stride rates between barefoot and shooter runners. A number of studies have found that elite shooter runners typically use a stride frequency between 170 and 180 steps per minute. Non-elite runners often adapt a low average stride frequency about 150 and 160 steps per minute at similar speed. And barefoot runners also tend to use slower stride rates and take a longer stride when asked to run shoot at the same speed. The next topic is anatomical adaptation. Different stress appeal to the body often elicit various physiological and anatomical responses. Barefoot running is no exception, and many simulate several adaptive mechanisms, but none have been studied in depth. The first and most obvious response to running barefoot is that friction on the glabrous skin of the plantar surface of the foot stimulates keratinocytes to produce a callus. The second thing is muscle hypertrophy or conditioning. It longer has been known that the arch of the foot functions as spring during the running by stretching up to mid-stance and then recovering during the second half of stance. Foot muscle responds to running like other muscles in the body. Then running barefoot or in minimal shoes will strengthen their arch muscle more than running in the shoes with arch supports. By the same logic, the barefoot running is likely also require more foot muscle strength to avoid injury. This is stride rates and anatomical adaptation, okay?
Okay, so that was very informative, thank you. I'll keep in mind the frequency of my running. And now on to my final question. What effect does performance have on barefoot running?
Well, me and Dongjun can answer this. There is no evidence that barefoot running has appreciable negative effects on performance. To be sure, most elite runners prefer to use shoes because they protect the foot and allow one to run on rough surfaces without worrying about foot placement. But barefoot runners have said world records in the marathon and shorter distance. The world record holders for almost every long distance running events are FFS runners who race and sometimes train in racing, flats, or other kinds of minimal shoes. In addition, as you can see, several studies have shown that economy seems to be improved by being barefoot or in minimal shoes. Then, how might barefoot running be relevant to injury? A major question on the minds of many runners, coaches, trainers, physical therapists, and physicians is whether running barefoot has any effects on injury rates. Answering this question requires testing a model of the factors that cause injuries, especially repetitive stress injuries, which are so prevalent among endurance runners. At a very approximate level, most repetitive stress injuries are caused by the accumulations of micro damage in tissues caused by the repeated application of forces that generate stress, which then cause strain. Repeated high levels of high stresses potentially are injurious in both bones and more viscous tissues such as ligaments and tendons, because some of the energy lost during unloading is converted to friction and generating heat. However, the rest of the energy can be converted into structural damage. Given the approximate mechanical cause of repetitive stress injuries outlined above, forces that cause rapidly high rates and magnitudes of loading are likely to contribute to injury. Of these forces, impact peaks stand out as the highest and most rapid loads and musculoskeletal system rapidly experience.
Okay, so there's a higher chance of micro damage in the tissues when there's barefoot running. Can you explain more about that?
Okay, I'll explain in more detail. Other points to consider are the effects of shoe cushioning and proprioception. Elevated elastical heels are designed to cushion the impact of a RFS, slowing the rate of loading and slightly damping the magnitude. However, several studies have found that runners who RFS adjust leg stiffness to surface and thus run with stiffer legs on more compliant surfaces, keeping the overall degree of stiffness the same. This adjustment also occurs in barefoot or minimally short runners who FFS. However, a major difference between barefoot and short running is that the barefoot runner will have more sensory feedback from impact and should be better able to adjust leg stiffness. Other things are moments applied around joints. In terms of sagittal plane moments, FFS runners land with a more plantar flex foot and thus undergo more ankle dorsiflexion during the first part of stance, causing higher external moments that must be controlled by the plantar flexors. Barefoot runners have been shown to generate lower sagittal plane moments in the knee and hip than short runners, a difference that may be explained partly by aspects of shoe design that affect moments. Another major and important category of injury to consider is the increased risk of injury from transitioning to either barefoot running or a barefoot style. FFS running requires more calf muscle strength than RFS running, foot muscle strength, and foot control. Runners who transition to barefoot or minimal shoe running frequently complain of calf muscle strains and Achilles tendinopathies, both of which reflect increased plantar flexor moments applied to the ankle during FFS gaits. In short, barefoot running raises more questions about injury than we have answers at the moment. Runners, both barefoot and short, will get injured, and what matters most is how one runs, not what is one's speed. It is reasonable to expect that barefoot running with poor form can cause injury. In addition, runners who transition from RFS to FFS skates or who transition from shoes to barefoot running also risk injury, especially if they do so too rapidly without allowing the musculoskeletal system to adapt to the different forces this kind of running generates. Okay, Juyeong, we have explained about why does evolution matter, first stride, stride length, anatomical adaptations, and performance to you. Do you understand why we barefoot run?
Yeah, I think I do. It's very remarkable how little we know about barefoot running. I learned so much today, and I was very grateful for your explanation. And I'll try barefoot running in the later future. Actually, I think I'll start now. Come on, guys.
Let's go.